Hi, this is Mary Kay from Backbone Valley Nursery in beautiful Marble Falls, Texas. Today we're going to talk about repotting. I have talked to so many people who have had difficulty after repotting a plant, or maybe they just didn't know how to go about it. I thought it would be a good idea to show you, because I learned very well from watching other people do things, how to repot a plant and why we do things the way we do them. So today we're going to start with one of the plants that I showed last week, very fragrant plant called night blooming jasmine. First thing you want to do is find out if the plant is root bound. And root bound means that you have a lot of circling roots, or maybe it's just there's like a perfect time that you can transplant things. They have to be well rooted. I prefer to do it before they have a lot of circling roots. And if you can get them at just the right stage, they'll root out into the new potting soil very, very well. The first thing to remember is you never use the plant as a handle. I see this a lot. You want to put your hand over the top of the soil, take the tag out, turn the pot upside down, and pull the pot off the plant. Now if it doesn't come off easily, go to the edge of a table and give it a little tap, and that'll pull it out like this. Wow, what great root system here. It's holding together nicely. I can see that it's well developed. This would be a good stage to repot this plant. Now every species of plant is a little bit different on how it grows its roots. Some of them are very, very aggressive with their root systems, and some of them are not. And with the ones that are not, you don't want to try and transplant them before their time, because they can stay in the pot a little bit longer until the root system and the root ball holds together like this. I happened to find an example today of one that was not ready. And this is a dwarf Meyer lemon, and when I went to take it out of the pot, I turned it over again with my hand on top of the soil, turned it over, and look what happened. The root ball was not holding together very well. So this is not one that I would normally want to repot, but you don't know until you look at the root system. So always put your hand on the top of the pot, turn it over, tap it on a surface if you need to, and if it has hopefully just the right amount of root system, then it's time to repot. So what size pot do we go to? Well, one of the most common things I see is people taking a plant in a pot this big, and they said, well, this plant's going to get really big, so I better put it on a great big pot. Not so. That is not the best thing. You can't get your moisture relations right with all that extra soil in the pot. So you make a 4 to 6 inch jump in pot size at one time on plants that are fairly aggressive rooters. If you know, the lower end 4 inches if they're slow to root out, and 6 inches if they're fast to root out. And then when that becomes a solid root ball, then you want to bump up to the next size. So here's the size that I've picked for this night blooming jasmine. It is a very heavy rooter. The roots are going to grow very fast. I know this because in the summertime, if I were to leave it in this pot, it would wilt and dry out very fast. And so you don't want to leave it in here until it gets really root bound, or you're going to be watering it twice a day to keep it hydrated. When those roots fill the pot and there's no soil to hold the moisture, you're in trouble. So I know that I can go to, this is a tall 5-gallon pot. You can see when I sit it in here, I'm about 4 inches bigger than the pot that's 2 inches on each side, and quite a bit deeper. So the first thing I'm going to do is put some soil on the bottom of the pot. Now if I had a pot with a drainage hole in the bottom, there's no need to put gravel in the bottom of pots. You don't want to shorten the column for watering purposes. The deeper the column, the better the drainage. Short pots don't drain nearly as well as tall, narrow pots. If I had a drainage hole in the bottom, I would cut a piece of screen, put over it to keep the soil from going out and insects from coming in, or I might get a piece of a coffee filter and put it over there just to keep the soil from going out. With this pot, it's just going to be out on a patio, or sometimes I'll double pot anything that's tropical, like the lemon or the night blooming jasmine. Double potting is much preferred for tropical plants because you're going to have to bring them in the wintertime. And if you pot them into a big ceramic pot, you're going to get tired of doing that. You might forget one time, or you might say, I'm too tired. If they're in a plastic pot, so much lighter to bring in. So I encourage double potting whenever you can. Even out on your patio, your pretty pots, double pot into a nursery can, and then you'll be able to protect it in the winter. With this, I'm not going to do anything with the drainage holes. So I have a little scoop here, and I'm going to put some really good potting soil. This is Happy Frog potting soil. It's one of the best ones you could ever find. I love this potting soil. And I'm going to put it in to a depth of what I believe, this. I'll set the root ball in there, and as you can see, it's a little bit low. I want to have a little bit of head space in here, maybe an inch. I know that it's going to settle, so I may do just a tiny bit taller, but I want to leave enough of a lip at the top of this pot so when I water it, I can fill that reservoir at the top over and over and over again so that it comes through and through and through. Just as a reminder, if you water and it goes straight through, you're not done. If you fill the top up with water and you see bubbles coming up, you're not done. You're displacing large air pockets of dry soil. So make sure you have a lip. I'm going to put a little bit more in here because I know it's going to settle. See how I'm handling it by the root ball. Set it in there. That looks about right. Sometimes you want it, this in this pot was off center in this pot, so when I repot it, I'm going to set the actual plant stems in the middle of the pot. It doesn't really matter as long as you have more soil volume for the roots, whether you put it at the side or the bottom. Sometimes plants are going off to the side, and when you plant them, you can straighten them up a little bit like that. So you can even angle the pot. And we fill in around it with some nice potting soil. One thing to remember, never ever change the soil line on a pot. See, I'm just going to firm it very gently, and I can see my original soil line where the top of the roots are. I'm going to give it a good settling by tapping it like this. Make sure that your root system, if you get a little bit too deep, sometimes if it's a small root ball, you can pull it up just a little bit. But this is the best way to settle it. You'll water it in. Again, you want to water it over and over and over again. Let the water come out, come out. New potting soil is going to stain. It has some tannins in there from the bark that's decomposed. So when you first few times you water it, you might want to set it off your nice patio. After a while, it's not going to leach out brown liquid anymore. So the first few times you might want to just set it off. But this is a really pretty night blooming jasmine. It's going to thrive in this larger pot. And now you know how to repot. And this is Mary Kay. This is Ask the Expert at Backbone Valley Nursery. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.